Let's rank those Sun Belt quarterbacks. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, so I want to get this out, and I'm sure I will repeat it numerous times. These are not my rankings. ESPN's David Hale, who does a tremendous job covering the ACC, I think he's a Syracuse grad, go Orange, did these rankings. What he knows and how much he's covered the Sun Belt, I do not know, okay? Had to include, and I'm sure there's quarterbacks on this list that were not part of the portal yet or in these teams when he decided to do this. He did not have General Booty, probably much to his dismay, listed on ULM's list. Okay, so just putting that out there. Okay, I'll probably have my own list later on, but I saw David Hale. It wasn't only Sun Belt. He ranked all 134, and his main point, to be honest with you, was we just had like 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. You know, at this point last year, it was still Caleb Williams and Drake May. Somewhere in there, I got close to Drake May was better than Caleb, and then, Jaden Daniels kind of came out of nowhere, certainly from the beginning of the season, but even, in October and early November, it was still Caleb Williams and Drake May. Anyways, the point is that we had all these great quarterbacks, and basically we got a lot of names like Milroe and maybe Quinn Ewers, but we don't know how great these quarterbacks are going to be and where they're going to get picked this time. Is basically his rankings. We're not sure. And he's got these in tiers, and that's where you can see some of the tiers over to the right that we use. Okay, so we'll just go over, and there are some guys, Cam Fancher is listed at FAU, and Chandler Rogers is out west. So former Sun Belters, everybody, all 100, he's got 134 quarterbacks listed. Okay. We'll go through them, okay? So at the top, and we'll tell you the tiers, and I had to do this. I had to search them out. I made my own list. I started out as a divisions, so I wouldn't forget anybody. But then I grouped them in tiers. So the first group, the first tier that a Sun Belt quarterback, 2 Sun Belt quarterbacks show up in. And let me tell you the first tier to begin with. Okay, so you know where we're coming from, okay? Cream of a questionable crop, okay? And he's got Jalen Milroe in there, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers. He even has Arch Manning, Jaden Rashada. Do we know anything about Jaden Rashada other than about money? I'm not sure we do. Tier number 1 with an asterisk, and that's got Cam Ward, that's at Miami, Cam Rising, and Shedeur Sanders. Okay. So that's where we are. So now let's go down to 9, and that is the first place we see the Sun Belt quarterbacks appear, and it's best of the group of 5. And that includes App State's Joy Aguilar. We'll get to that in a second. And Texas State's Jordan McLeod. It does also happen to, would that be ironic? I think it would be ironic. Western Kentucky's TJ Finley is in there. Okay, so let's see. Sometimes he has things about these quarterbacks, and other times he does not. All right, but how about this one? No quarterback in the country threw more touchdown passes to tie or give his team a lead than App State's Aguilar. That's 15. That's why I happen to think they are the favorite out east. I think App State's the favorite out east. We go to the other side, and he's got a couple of things listed with Jordan McLeod. 4 quarterbacks in the nation threw for 35 touchdowns and 3,500 yards last year. Daniels, Penix, Nix, and McLeod. So that's 3 first-round draft picks and Jordan McLeod. All right. Daniels, Penix, and McLeod led the nation with 8 games in which they threw for at least 240 yards and 3 touchdowns. McLeod was the only one to do it in 13 games. All right. So they're big fans of Jordan McLeod. And with G.J. Kinney and Texas State and Jordan McLeod over back here in the West, I think they are the favorite in this division. I don't think that surprises anybody. JMU also they actually have a higher win total than App State does. It did say, let me see this now. I got to go through my own Twitter feed. They read Sun Belt Sports Twitter feed. Did his own little research and ranked the schedules. Yeah. Guess who has the easiest schedule this year? JMU. Their win total is 8.5. Second easiest schedule is Texas State. Their win total is 8.5. App's got a pretty hard schedule, but that includes Clemson and ECU out of conference. They got like the 4th hardest schedule, but their win total is 7.5. So again, we'll find out, about some of these other quarterbacks. New quarterback with JMU, perchance, where they will be. We'll get in some of these other tiers, but I'm not sure there's much of an argument right now. We'll find out. Again, the not ironic. It's not ironic. The interesting part about Jordan McLeod and Joey Aguilar being who I think are the 2 top returning quarterbacks in the conference is that neither one of them won the job coming out of camp last year. Alonzo Barnett, the 4th, won it at JMU and got stage fright, had to come out of the game, could not complete a pass. And the starter for App State injured his finger. Aguilar went in there and threw a 40-yard touchdown pass to start his App State career with. And now those 2, I think, right now, are the 2 best quarterbacks in the Sun Belt. I'm not sure there's much of an argument against that. You may add somebody in there, and we'll probably be surprised. Who else could be there based on those 2 weren't supposed to be there coming out of camp last year. So that's neither ironic nor a coincidence, but I do find it interesting. Okay, we'll go to the not too shabby tier and the known quantities, and there's a couple other tiers in there. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about Gametime. Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You guys know the story now. Surprised my nephew, the Samo, with tickets to the Eastern Conference semifinals, the Knicks and the Pacers. We were at Game 6 in Indiana. It was awesome. The Gametime app was easy to use. It wasn't quite a last-minute deal where maybe we could have saved up to 60% buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You could save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. I did see the all-in pricing, which shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, and also got my panoramic view up top. Really nice arena, by the way, from the seat in the app before you buy. And don't forget the Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off, which we did get, of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. All right, so now there are a couple of more tiers than just the two that I printed up. So this is where the JMU quarterbacks are. And Dylan Morris, the transfer in. And what he has here is he terms it, and this is, again, David Hale. And this is 11B, where he's got players moving down. The portal works both ways. And so a few teams outside the Power Five have benefited by adding some players who likely wouldn't have even considered these schools coming out of high school. And he's gotten an example there of Malachi Nelson, who's now at Boise State, when he formerly went to USC. So that includes Dylan Morris, Brett Griffiths, and Alonzo Barrett. I'm sorry, it's the third. So Dylan Morris is in that company, and Dylan Morris is from Washington. So he was the Washington starter in 21 before someone named Penix got there. Played very sparingly in 22 and 23. Threw for almost 2,500 yards. Pretty good completion percentage in 60%, but threw 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So the 12 interceptions is obviously not very good when you're only throwing 14 touchdowns, but he does have some experience. Okay, so that's JMU's probably starting quarterback, one may think, for 2024. All right, the other the other tiers we got 15, which is not too shabby. All right, and you got a couple of youngsters with Arkansas State's Jalen Rayner. In fact, he lists the quarterbacks from the schools. I don't know if it's the leading candidate or who he thinks, but all these quarterbacks are listed from the schools. So he's got Arkansas State's Jalen Rayner, Will Pritchard, and Timmy McClain. And he's got Gio Lopez from South Alabama, who struggled in a big way in the spring ball game. And when I mean big way, I'm not sure he completed a pass. Big way. Jared Hollins is a true freshman, I believe, right out of Mary G. Montgomery. Had an unbelievable career there. And I doubt he's going to start, but we would have said the same thing about Jalen Rayner. And it took him about 2.5, 3 games, maybe 3.5 games to get in there. And by the fourth game, he was all set. So David Hale from ESPN has Dylan Morris and moving on down. So that may be to the benefit of JMU, going from Washington to JMU, whereas South Alabama and Arkansas State, for the moment, appear to be building from within. Jalen Rayner, a true freshman last year. Gio Lopez was, I believe, a true freshman last year. Lopez is probably a redshirt freshman. Obviously, Jalen Rayner is not. He played a bunch. Also, we'll do this one, I believe. Make sure we're doing this correctly. And known quantities, okay? So to recap, we'll get to known quantities in a second. So the best of group of 5, Texas State's Jordan McLeod and App State's Joy Aguilar. Moving down, meaning from Power 5 to group of 5, JMU's Dylan Morris. And then not too shabby, Jalen Rayner, which we think is better than not too shabby, and Gio Lopez, who actually played very well in the bowl game last year, but not so much in spring ball this year. All right, so known quantities. We got 3 teams with known quantities right now. That includes the Cajuns, Chandler Fields, and Ben Wooldridge. Ben Wooldridge, he says, when healthy, and that's been his biggest issue, like 20 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. The problem is he hasn't been healthy. Wasn't healthy for the spring. We'll see if there's a competition. Remember, Chandler Fields came back. Obviously, he's going to be also now he's engaged. So we'll see what happens, come the fall, and if there is a clear delineation. Because Ben's just a bigger kid, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy, right? And so we'll put it this way, not if you're Chandler. If you're whomever, you're thinking you're going to play. That's just the way it's been, right? Just the way it's been. In Chandler's case, if Ben does win the job, let's see him stay healthy for the season. All right. Then Old Dominion, he's got Grant Wilson and Emmett Moorhead. All right, known quantities. Grant Wilson has a little bit of an issue. I think he had the highest rated amount of passes that were not on target? Let's see. Known quantities. Okay. Old Dominion's Grant Wilson. Wilson was off target 20.4%, 20.4% of his throws last season, 124th out of 125 quarterbacks. Now, it's a new offense. From what Ricky Ronnie said, I believe on Locked On Sun Belt, guys take a big step year 1 to year 2. Also, I believe that's Grant Wilson's first year, as the starter for ODU. And also, I know they kind of blew it in the bowl game, but when you get to a bowl game, when your over-under was like, your win total was like 1.5, and you win on a QB draw to go to a bowl game, I don't care that you lost the bowl game. It was a successful season, and ODU can build on that. Okay. Going to have to do a little bit better than the 124th out of 125 quarterbacks that were not on target, though. You got and that number, the ranking has to go up, and that number has to come down. All right, let's see what else we got here. And then the other known quantities, and we'll find out who's going to be the quarterback here. I'm not sure we got this right. Cole Pennington is still with Marshall. He struggled when he went in, actually. Mitch Griffiths is there, and Tulsa quarterback transfer Braylon Braxton. So I think with the known quantities, we're going with Cole Pennington, and he wrote a little bit there, but yeah, not much. Pennington finished last season with 6 interceptions and 0 TD passes. No FBS quarterback had more INTs without a touchdown pass since Tim Boyle had 8 in 2013. The good news, hashtag always the bright side, for Pennington is Boyle went on to a fine career and has actually started 5 NFL games, though 3 were with the 2021 Detroit Lions and 2 more last year with the Jets, and he's 0-5 in the starts. Anyway, we'll see who Marshall gets as their quarterback. All right. I think we have 3 more tiers. We will get to that when we come back, and we wrap up this episode right after this. All right. Again, I know I haven't been consistent this week. My deepest apologies. We're getting into football. Still have to reach out and see if we can get these coaches in. A couple of them that haven't been on. Again, we put out the Del McGee signal to see if he wants to join us, introduce ourselves, and have a good conversation with Del McGee, who will now be coaching his son. And we'll see how that goes. But almost 1,250 subscribers. I know with the football talk, we'll get going. We could do the playoff. Schedule was revealed yesterday. We can talk about that maybe in tomorrow's episode. But that playoff schedule was revealed. And of course, we got this video game that's coming out, in the middle of July that none of us are going to be doing a whole lot except playing that. And when it does come out, I'm trying to get the Samo, my nephew, to actually buy me the PS5. It is not going well. All right. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please do it on YouTube. You can always get the audio portion on wherever you find your podcast, but mostly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And please let people know that are, Sunbelt alum, going to Sunbelt schools this fall. Please have them subscribe. It is a big help. All right. Let's wrap up the episode right after this. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We are reading someone else's rankings for the Sunbelt quarterbacks. That person would be David Hale from ESPN, ranked all 100 quarterbacks, all 134 quarterbacks. I think let me see what he titled this as. Maybe all 134 schools, because there's got to be a lot more quarterbacks. Ranking all 134 FBS quarterback situations into tiers ahead of the 2024 season. So that's where quarterback situations. I'm not sure if that sounds like a good podcast or not. I'm not sure about that whatsoever. All right. So We've done best of group of 5. That was Texas State, Jordan McLeod and Joey Aguilar from App State. Moving down, that's from a Power 5 school to a group of 5 school, JMU's Dylan Morris coming from Washington. Not Too Shabby, Gio Lopez from South Alabama, and Arkansas State's Jalen Rayner. Known Quantities, Cajuns, Chandler Fields, and Ben Wooldridge. And you got Grant Wilson at Old Dominion and Cole Pennington at Marshall. Now, 18, it's a long way from the top if you want to rock and roll. You got Tate Rodemaker from Southern Miss and Ethan Crawford. Obviously, we've heard from, Tim, the Fighting Will Halls, Mike Desimo. These guys realize that if they want to continue their career at their current institution, they're going to have to win. And basically, if Will Hall is going to win, Tate Rodemaker is going to have to play well. All right. I have a feeling that the Southern Miss defense will be fine, but the offense has to find some, it's not even consistency, it's some explosiveness. That was the problem last year with Southern Miss. They just didn't have any explosiveness without Frank Gore Jr. Yeah, they got to replace Frank Gore Jr., but Tate Rodemaker is going to have to lead the way. So Southern Miss it's a long way from the top. They are ranked in that 18th tier. Georgia Southern, J.C. French and Dexter Williams, the second. Although I feel like there's another quarterback in there. Also a long way from the top. So this is the first time in Clay Helton's career at Georgia Southern, which is now into year 3, that he does not have a transfer quarterback in. He does have a battle. All right. And the one thing we've seen from the 2 previous guys there is that they throw a bunch of interceptions. They got to cut down on those interceptions. It is the decision-making that is keeping Georgia Southern from really competing in the East. If they can cut down on those interceptions and take a check down or an interception, or a check down or an incompletion or even a sack, just not an interception, they could be much better. Georgia State, as I mentioned, Del McGee, that could be a whole new thing. Kyle Lowe and Christian Vilu are ranked in that. It's a long way from the top. Georgia State is a lot like ULM. We do not know what we're getting. They seem to be getting a ton of transfers in continually. And so we don't have any idea. They do start off with, they do start off with Georgia Tech. Maybe they surprise Georgia Tech. Maybe not beating Georgia Tech. They're like a 21 point underdog. Did I see that right? And it's a tough spot for Del McGee in his first game, Power 5 school. But at the same time, they're in their bed. I mean, I don't think they're leaving tonight. We've talked about that, right? Like Georgia State is not leaving Atlanta until like the middle of the month, in the middle of October, I think. They're at Georgia Tech, which is basically across the street. At home against Chattanooga. Well, that's 2 games. Vanderbilt's at home. Georgia Southern's at home. And Old Dominion is home. And there's an off week in between the Georgia Southern and Old Dominion game. So their first true road game, the first time they're getting on an aeroplane, is at Marshall Thursday, October 17th. I mean, it's a tough spot for Del McGee and Georgia State because, well, it doesn't get any easier on the back end, I'll tell you that. At James Madison, home versus Arkansas State, at Texas State, and home versus Coastal. Somewhere along the way, you got to start fast because basically I would say, they'll be better at the end of the year, but the competition is going to be tougher at the end of the year. We'll see. Anyways, back to the quarterback tiers. Coastal Carolina, Ethan Vasco and Noah Kim. It's a long way from the top. Again, I may have them higher when I do it. See if he says anything here. He does not. Not about any of the Sun Belt quarterbacks. We saw Coastal Carolina play well. We saw Ethan Vasco play well. Let's see what their schedule is. I think we kind of did this with the over-unders. I think Coastal had like a 5.5 or 6.5 over. So they're at Jacksonville State. That's a little tricky. That's a Thursday game at Jacksonville. That's a little tricky. William and Mary Conway. You're going to Temple. I'll be first to one. I don't know too much about Temple anymore. You got Virginia coming into Conway. You got Old Dominion coming into Conway. You can get off to a pretty good start. You beat Jacksonville, beat William and Mary, beat Temple. And then can you upset Virginia? I'm not even sure if that would be an upset. All right. Also in this one, you got our favorite quarterback name, in Goose Crowder. I feel Troy has more quarterbacks in there. That's now at the 19th. They're on the 19th tier, and they only got 20 tiers. And of all the quarterbacks he listed, the tier is called They Can't All Be Bad. I got a feeling they got more in there. He made a crack about his name, Talk to Me Goose, which isn't great because that's referencing Top Gun, and Goose isn't around anymore. So, okay. Anyways, we love the name Goose Crowder. There's a lot of question marks with Troy. I think eventually they'll be fine. We'll see, because it's just a lot. Again, replacing a quarterback, you're replacing a running back, you're replacing a coach, you're replacing a wide receiver. There's a ton that Troy has to contend with. Same with ULM. They are 20th on the 20th tier. Hey, we could be wrong. All right. They got Hunter Herring right here from Lafayette and General Booty. He's going to transfer in. And obviously ULM has that huge situation where, they could have 60 or so new players, 65 new players. 75% of the roster is going to turn over in 1 year under Coach Vincent. So that's where I think, we don't really know, what Del McGee is bringing in, a bunch of new players. Coach Vincent's bringing in at ULM a bunch of new players. These guys are head coaches for the first time. Someone today reached out to me and said he thinks JMU is going to take a step back because a lot of those players ended up at IU. But I think Bob Chesney is a known quantity for coaching. He's got a plan. Now, it may take a little bit of time to get there. Also, I don't think the cupboard is completely bare with JMU. I think they got some transfers in. They may not contend, but I also don't think they're going to go 6-6, all right, barring injuries. I think they will, no, I'll rephrase that. They will probably give App State a ride for their money, all right? They'll be right there with App State. I think App State's the favorite, all right? We'll see. I'm going to keep that list. I put it in a database. I'll keep that one, and then I'll rank my own quarterbacks, or not my quarterbacks. I'll rank the quarterbacks the way I see fit a little bit later on. But you can go see it. I'll put it in the comment section or in the description. It'll be in the description comment section. It'll be in the description where I got the rankings from. It's ESPN.com. David Hale. You can find him on Twitter, but I follow him because he covers ACC. So, all right. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Everybody have a great Thursday. Appreciate you watching. Please subscribe, like, and share, all that good stuff. And hopefully we will talk to you again on Friday. It's Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sun Belt, your team every day.